Welcome to a live edition of Create and Grow podcast. I'm so excited to be with you. It is a late time, but I am coming with just some good conversation with new guests. Normally, I have professionals with me and people who are thought leaders in their field, but I have a different group of thought leaders with us. I have with me Generation Z. And they are special to me because I have known them for predominantly their whole life. For those of you who know my background, I am trained as an educator, and I started my career at New Academy Canoga Park, which is an elementary school in Canoga Park, north of Los Angeles. And I started a nonprofit called Alumni 360, where the graduates of that elementary school, they came and they met once a month. They had speakers and field trips and different camps and entrepreneurship camps and entree arts camps, just to really upskill them in their life skills and creative thinking skills. And so a lot of my students who I met at 5 and 6 and 7 years old are now in their 20s. Some are married, some have babies, like I'm a grandmother teacher. And I wanted to bring a few of them on our podcast just to talk about a lot of the issues that I've been hearing. Generational leadership. How does my generation, which I'm on the cusp of the millennials and Generation X, I think, yeah, X, how does my generation really reach out and lead? So let's bring them on to the platform. First, we have to the stage. I called her Princess Katherine when I first met her because at that time she was, or actually in England, Prince Charles and Princess Catherine were getting married. So I just kind of had to play off of that. And Princess Catherine, or Catherine, as a recent UC Davis graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in Communication with an emphasis in statistics, Catherine secured a full-time position at the UC Davis Center for Regional Change, known as the CRC. And it's a catalyst for innovation, for collaboration, and action-oriented research. Catherine appreciates how this center brings together faculty and students from different disciplines and builds bridges between university, policy, advocacy, philanthropy, and other sectors. She does work with and for the community. Welcome to the show, Princess Catherine.
Hi, Jean. So nice to be here.
Thanks. And how old were you when I met you?
Woo! When they got married, I was in the second grade. So, how old are you then? 7?
Yes,
Six?
you're on 7, 8, right? So when I got married, so you knew me as Miss Jefferson?
Jefferson. Hmm.
Yes. So wonderful. And then you were my clarinet player, correct? Wonderful. When we
Correct.
taught music, wonderful. So thank you so much for being here. Next, we are going to bring up to the stage. Let me scroll on down. We're going to bring up Miss Lizbeth Paz. And so, Lizbeth, another one of my thriving students, just very on top of it business wise. It's so interesting seeing you all, or thinking of you all as 7-year olds and now seeing you as young women. But so Lizbeth is she is at California State University Northridge. She's taken names and doing her thing, and she is preparing to dive into a world of numbers and data as an inspiring double major in business analytics and statistics at CSUN, which, by the way, I found out that CSUN is ranked number 2, I believe, in the nation. Definitely high in California by a high ranking system. So I was telling people CSUN is coming up. That's California State University Northridge, which is north of Los Angeles. Welcome to the show, Lizbeth.
Thank you for having me. Grateful to be here.
Yes. Thank you. Good to see you. And I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about this timely topic. And last, we have Miss Kenia Ventura. And Kenia, I've known for over a decade as well. And she is just one who is really taking control of taking her story and using it for just power, and using her storytelling a business to really set that foundation. She is a business student at Cal Poly SLO, that's San Luis Obispo, I think, right? And concentrating in accounting. Welcome to the show, Kenya.
Hello. Very grateful to be here.
Thanks. So, let's start. This is live, so we're just going to go for it. And really, first of all, if you can just each take your time and just talk about what it was like just growing up with at New Academy with us, and just your type of learning experience that you had with Alumni 360 that you feel prepared you for what you're doing today. So I'll just give you some time to think about that. How did you enjoy your childhood? Who wants to jump in first?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay, go for it.
I feel very fortunate. I know we all came, at least for Alumni 360, we came from marginalized communities where typically these resources, these college bound resources, aren't really put at the forefront for us to aspire to have that, career path. But I feel very fortunate to have had the resource to have had, Genein in my life, and to be able to pass on those resources to my younger siblings. So growing up where I grew up, even though, infrastructurally we're not meant to be where we are, I'm very appreciative that we were given these resources to be where we are.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, I know we did a lot of talk even back then, even back when you were 8 years old, of just about what your journey was going to be like. And not saying everyone has to go to college, but just making sure you're aware that that was an option, right? And starting that in your elementary years. And the rest, Kenia, Lizbeth, what was your childhood like growing up around us?
Yeah, well, for me, I was raised in a home that wasn't really filled with that much stability. So just being able to, go to a school that was filled with that. There was so much stability, so much support and love, and I was just super grateful to have that. And like thankfully I was able to also just like learn a lot at a young age, because from just having you in my life as a mentor, I was also able to become a mentor for lots of my friends. I mean, to this day, they come to me for a lot of their like just questions on like resources and like how to build a LinkedIn profile, like what we talked about at our Alumni 360 workshop. So I think it really just equipped me at an early start, and I got that leg up, even though like Katherine was saying, we were brought up in a marginalized community. I feel like we still had so much support because of Alumni 360.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. And to kind of build up on that, I'm also grateful because, in elementary school, I was involved in a lot of the extracurriculars, and I feel like that kind of carried on into my career. All I want to do is get involved in what I'm doing, put myself out there, and thankfully, Alumni 360 turned into a very useful resource that I just want, to utilize all the time. At first, it was my mom kind of taking me to these meetings, but I ended up loving it. And, I learned from a lot of entrepreneurs, their coming stories, and it was very inspirational, and which is why I kind of started to lean towards the business domain in the first place.
So it's funny and not funny. I consider myself in a very interesting spot, because normally, especially as an elementary school teacher, we're your teacher for maybe a year. I was blessed to be a part of the music program and the music director, so I had a lot of you for multiple years. I did teach third grade for 3 years, but after that, I taught the whole school for multiple years. So I've got to see many of you grow from kindergarten to fifth grade, and then you graduated, and some of you stayed with me for the Alumni 360 mentorship program. And what I tell people is like, we judge our success on like the test scores, right? Like how high are the test scores of the high school, and what's the percentage rates of kids going to college, right? That's how we decide if we're doing a good job. But I'm like, do we have ever talked to the students and say, how did we do? Like you're 20, you're 25, you're 35. What went right during those years? And I'm going to bring up a book that I would love to send you, and it just got released last week. It's by Adam Grant. He's an organizational psychologist, very well known. He was just on Oprah about the book as well. And it's called Hidden Potential. Hidden Potential, the Science of Achieving Greater Things. And I was reading this book today. I just got it in the mail yesterday, and I'm already on like chapter 3. He starts out by saying that they looked at the success of adults by their kindergarten, their teacher in kindergarten, the kindergarten years, of whether that teacher really put them in situations where they got to ask questions, they got to be curious, and like Lizbeth said, they got to be exposed to different extracurricular activities, which actually were essential. Lizbeth, you were the lead in what many of our plays, correct? Yes, yes.
Yes.
So if you could just talk about, and it doesn't have to be all three, but or it can be, talk about a few more things that were pivotal that you found that not a lot of your peers had when you got into high school or junior high that you had at New Academy when you were in your formative years.
Yeah, so well, for myself, music was something that actually not a lot of people um, took advantage of when they were in elementary school. You know, I was in the honor band, I played the flute, and when I recount my stories to my friends, they're like, "Oh, you played like you played music?" And yes, and I actually really it was a way for me to get creative, and I'm very surprised that a lot of people didn't go through the same experiences. And also another thing, you know, drama and Dancing Dolphins, which was provided to us by New Academy. That was a great program where I was able to express myself with, you know, dance moves and then also express myself in acting. Um, so yeah, those are just a few things that I feel not a lot of people in high school, you know, shared as an experience.
Awesome, awesome. And anyone else have any like standout experiences in your formative years that you feel really affected the way that you lead and operate in your social spheres today?
Yeah, I don't think it was a specific event. I think it was a accumulation of events that kind of created this confidence for me to be outspoken, for me to, you know, be able to speak up for myself and advocate for myself. Because I think a very important thing in college that they don't really tell you about is you can have a 4.0 GPA, be in the honors list, and do and excel well in academics. And that's great and that's amazing. But if you don't talk to people, if you don't build and establish and maintain those connections, then you really won't go far in life. And for me, you know, being able to be a part of Alumni 360 and being able to build that confidence with accumulation of those extracurricular activities help me, you know, establish, maintain these connections that help me create, that are helping me be in these projects, be in these research projects, and helping me with my passion. So yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about what you're doing now today so people can kind of see that bridge. Kenya, did you have any standout experiences?
Yeah, just building off from what both Lizbeth and Katherine said, I am like in awe of just all of the or little clubs and like the programs that I was part of in Academy. Like in elementary school, I was doing so much. I was in Singing Stars and drill team, drama club, glee. There was a cooking club. There was just so much offered at our school, which I am just so appreciative about because I, like Catherine said, like I gained those interpersonal skills and I was able to become a leader at first grade, like lead a dance. Like who does that? Like at 6 years old, like you're leading a dance and there's like these fifth graders like behind you, like following your lead. It just really sets you up for success because not only are like the academics they're there in the academy, but also just building you as a young thought leader.
Ah, see, that is so good. And it's so funny because I remember your experience as an educator, right? I was up there just, I was coach teacher of the drama club and everything else like that. But that's so funny that you have these other specific memories that I haven't logged because I didn't see things from your perspective. So that is profound. And I just want to, before we go on to a next topic, I'm going to show a short video to give you the neuroscience behind why that's important. I just want people to understand one thing that I've been trying to say over and over again. I think this is the decade that people are going to try to really get it, is that what goes on in your formative years are crucial and so profound to how adults lead, interact, show up, take risks, right? how you advocate for yourself, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, Katherine, of what that actually looks like in a pragmatic form and everything. But let's talk about music really quick. I want to show this short clip from Dr. Andrew Huberman out of Stanford. And there's a wonderful book that I will show called Your Brain on Art. Right. I wish I had this book back when I was your teacher, because it would have really helped me get more funding. It just showed why you needed music, why you needed the dance club, and why you needed theater, and you had visual art with Miss Donna at the Canoga Park Arts Center. Why this isn't extracurricular activities, and it actually shaped your brain to be the thought leaders you are today. Let's go check out Dr. Andrew Huberman.
Designed to be customized in the early part of life, and then to implement those algorithms and that circuitry for the rest of its life. And so the brain can change in adulthood, and it can change provided that there's an emphasis on some perceptual event. So in other words, if you want to change your brain as an adult, let's say you want to be less anxious, you want to learn a new language, you want to be more functional in some way, presumably. The key thing is to bring focus to some particular perception of something that's happening during the learning process. And the reason for that is that there's a neurochemical system involving acetylcholine. And it comes from these two little nuclei down in the base of the brain called nucleus basalis. All day long, you're doing things in a reflexive way. But when you do something and you think about it very intensely, acetylcholine is released from basalis at the precise neurons that were involved in that behavior, and it marks those for change during sleep or during deep rest late.
So I actually wanted to show a different clip instead of that one, but I'm so glad he brought that out. Just acetylcholine, just you having fun, you being engaged, and you learning, and now bringing that into your adult life. But I'll look for that other clip, which shows the importance of the early music and the early arts in your childhood as well. So let's actually switch gears, and let's talk about, I want you to tell me before we get into your young adulthood, what did you wish you would have known? There's a book called I Wish My Teacher Would Have Known, or I Wish My Teacher Knew, right? Something that you wish your teacher know. What, even though you had a great childhood with New Academy, what do you wish, or what did some of your peers wish they knew coming into either collegiate years, your young adulthood, or for you, Katherine, heading into the workforce? What do you now know that's so important that you wish you would have got more of in your formative years? Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I just finished this book, Crucial Conversations. I wish I read this when I was 18 years old. I think it's so important, whether you're in your undergrad or even entering the workforce, just understanding when a conversation is crucial and how to approach it, and how to approach it appropriately, where there's a general consensus or a solution that both parties feel satisfied. Because going back to that video that you showed us, in this book, it talks about how our brain releases dopamine during these times when we have these crucial conversations. When we go into either flight or fight, we either get combative and we're violent in the sense of we raise our tone, or we speak in a way that could be taken as rude or interpreted as rude, or we're silent, flight, and we just let that, problem, that crucial conversation doesn't occur. That problem continues to, grow and grow. And so I wish I read this book when I was younger and was able to, handle these conversations in a way more mature manner. But I think just being able to communicate in a eloquent and, respectful manner at a younger age, I wish I would have had that.
Yes. So thank you so much for that. I will try to put that in the show notes when we launch that crucial conversation. So more of the ability to communicate. Awesome. Kenia or Lizbeth, what do you wish you would have had more of as you're entering your young adult years?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just like that wisdom, or like that knowledge of the fact that people come and go. Like your community and who influences you plays a crucial part in the decisions that you make. I think in middle school, I spent so much time wanting to do what my friends were doing, and it just, I could have been investing my time in things that I would have been benefiting from, like right now to this day. But I cared so much about what others were doing and like what I would see on social media that I followed along. So instead of being a follower, being a leader and breaking away from just that chain of, okay, I'm going to follow along with the crowd, because anyone can be influenced, and we all follow things that, the trends that are on social media and on Facebook and whatnot. So just being a thought leader on my own and not following what others are doing from a young age.
Yeah. And the fact that you're still young, from a young age. It's not like
Yes.
you're like 65,
But like
right?
11 years old, 11 years
Yes.
old me, 10 years old me.
But I will say, developmentally wise, that you are on track, because around that time, the child starts moving their identity away from their parents more and seeing really the individualism and the independence. And that's when you start to find your identity within groups. So developmentally, you were on track, but you get to reflect, right? Reflection is powerful. And you get to really say, okay, I tried to this and that really didn't pan out, or now I don't see the importance of it. But just to let you know, your brain, to that social aspect to your brain was really important during those years. So that's why your brain resorted to that at that time. Lizbeth?
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, I actually had two things in mind. One was, establishing connections. In high school, I would consider myself a social butterfly, but I have too many people that I'm acquainted with. Something that is now powerful and that I could use, in my educational years and in my career is establishing connections, but like real connections, if you kind of get a sense of where I'm going with this. So connections where, you're going every day, talking to people, getting opportunities. And then also the other thing was to stay up to date with the latest changes. I feel like our world has evolved ever since, I started my freshman year, and I wish I were to have gone through the changes and been updated on every single change that we were going through at that time.
Like, could you give more of a specific example of updated on the change? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So what I mean by that is like, for example, the job market is, evolving. I'm not too sure if you want me to continue.
Sure.
Yeah. So, with the development of AI, like how that started in the first place. So we have a lot of like developing things going on. The economy, stuff like that, just staying up to date in, what's going on in our world, like what's changing, what's evolving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's huge. And if anyone else wants to jump in, because I know I've been kind of playing double dutch here with but that's huge. I want my job is to like pull out the gems, right? That's huge. A few things that you said is, number one, learning. We're in a learning economy. We're in a creative economy, curiosity economy, and a learning economy. Those who know how to learn. And Adam Grant. By the way, did you see he put a diamond on his cover? And it's coming out of a coal and lava. I'm like, he stole my idea, which he didn't steal it. He just validated that I'm on the right track, right? But he's basically talking about you. He's basically talking like, how do we get these brilliant minds who may have come from areas of, you come from a low wealth area. A lot of, I think all three of you are first gen, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah.
Or meaning first gen, meaning you're the first in your family to attend a 4-year university. You didn't have a trust fund. You didn't have tons of money to pay for college. A lot of you are either on scholarship or loans or working, right? And many of you may have missed the boat, whatever that would mean, had you not had significant people to kind of help you guide the way. And so we would have lost a lot of your hidden potential. And so what does that look like? But exactly what Lizbeth said is you gain, and you all three have this because I know you personally, you gain that skill to self-teach. And he talks, I know he needs to give me royalties because I keep bringing this up. He talks about Melody Hobson, who's the co-CEO of an investment firm, and how she came from really, really hard backgrounds and just they were moving around a lot, very poor, and turn off electricity in their childhood. and she rose to the top. You know, she's like she's a chairman of Starbucks board of directors, and she's huge, even without just being the wife of George Lucas, who's the inventor of Star Wars. Even without that, she's like brilliant, right? And they just talk about her insatiable curiosity to learn. She's always, and I see that in you three, like you're go-getters and you take initiative. You don't wait for people to drop things in your life. And that's going to be huge as you get ready for this future of work with AI and everything. So another thing that I want you to speak about is, as you enter the workforce, I'm hearing a lot of discussion about how my generation, Generation X, and millennials, and people who are older than me, like my mother's generation, people who are nearing retirement, they're saying, oh, we can't connect with these kids, you know, and some people are throwing around the word entitlement, or some people are just saying that, you know, you're basically the first group to really have that digital age, right? When I was your age, there was no cell phones. You're 20. Yeah, cell phones were just coming out in 98, 99, and they were like huge. They were this big, right? I remember my basketball coach. She got the first cell phone I ever saw at my high school, and it was literally the size of a brick. So we weren't really the digital kids coming up and through high school and college, but this is basically all you known in your late childhood and early adulthood. How is it that you're connecting, or is there a disconnect with you trying to connect with the older generations?
I mean, that's a loaded question.
I know, yeah. That's a big one, and I'll give you a
There's so many layers to it.
Because and speak from the heart, because we want to know where the disconnect is, right? You not only is it different generation. Not as it's only different in generations, but I think it's a huge, bigger shift. Even though there've been bigger shifts with like my great grandmother's, you know, generation with like phones, and we have planes now. Like, what is this, you know, right? But I think from an educator's point of view and a parent point of view, this one's huge because AI, like you mentioned, I mean, really. So yeah, what are your thoughts about just you connecting with my generation and baby boomers? What does that look like?
Well, from my perspective, I'm in academia, so there's a time when we meet. There is no social media, but from an external perspective, when we're doing community outreach, specifically when I do community outreach with the youth, I do encounter that. And I am young. I am Generation Z, but there's also the new generation where they grew up with Chat GPT, all these different technological advances that the newer generation also have, and apart from us, and then Generation X and millennials and baby boomers. And so I think I can see both the disconnect and the connection. The disconnect in the sense of, if you allow yourself, earlier what Kenia was talking about when she was an adolescent, if you allow yourself to consume all that media and essentially become a zombie to social media and your phone, then yeah, it can create that disconnect. But yeah, anyone else want to chime in to just starting the thought?
Yeah, so for me, I feel as though, me pursuing higher education is kind of my way of trying to connect to that older generation. But I do agree, we do have a hard time finding that connection just because, the jobs have changed dramatically. Like the way things are done changes. A lot of people say that what we learn in school, sometimes it's not applied to how it's actually done. A variety of companies do things a certain way, and you know, you won't actually learn how to do it not until you get there. So for me, developing conversations is where I find myself finding a disconnect, because I'm not too sure, you know, what the older generation, you know, finds interesting, or in a sense of, you know, how to connect with them in a personal level, but also in an educational level, because they are more experienced. And yeah,
So, and let's touch on that. And can you let me know if you want to expand on that? So they say that a lot of the tech
Yeah.
skills has a shelf life of three to 5 years, meaning the things you're learning right now in university may be obsolete by the time
Yeah.
you get out of university.
Wow.
Like, it's moving that fast. And that was not my experience. You know, I went to school for psychology, a pretty much stabilized field, and my mother went to school for psychology as well. And it's almost like the skills you're needing to learn is changing for tech skills, of course, especially if you're in a particular field. Here's another great book called Leading in a Non-Linear World: Building Well-Being, Strategic, and Innovation Mindsets for the Future. This book, the whole half part of this book, which you see is very well read, is saying it's all about the inner game. It's like, yes, we need to teach them tech skills, but they need resilient mindsets. They need to be highly creative in a non-formulated world, to be able to be adaptable quickly, to be able to control their emotions, and to be able to learn quickly and figure out what is applicable and what needs to be discarded, depending on where you are. What are your thoughts about that, about how fast things are changing? And it's not just about the tech skills, it's more about your inner leadership skills than anything else.
Oh, I agree. You have to be adaptable in this workforce. You have to, yeah, you can bring these skills, but while you're applying and they ask you in your interview, hey, can you also do this? Or hey, can you elaborate on your this software skills? Or do you have experience with this software? Of course, you have to be very adaptable in a changing working climate. But I kind of wanted to go back for a second and kind of finish my thought. Um, when it comes to technology, it's very interesting how I kind of see this really broad conversation of how it's dividing us. But in the work that I do, it's actually uniting us. I use it in a way where we're using it to connect with communities that we typically wouldn't connect with. And so we create all these like easy templates and graphics to talk to community members that typically wouldn't be aware of a certain resource that the government is providing. So it's really interesting as to how I or we at the center or in my position, how we use social media and how it bridges all these different generations, and we actually come together to collaborate to progress forward. So it's interesting to hear your perspective, because I feel like I've only worked on the other end of that spectrum.
And we're all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
Kenya, did you have anything to add to any of those top topics?
Yeah, so just going back to like, what does good leadership look like from older generations? For me personally, when I was interning at like the firm Ernst & Young, having like those counselors and like those peer buddies was just super helpful, because I was partnered up with older Latinx business professionals. And so just seeing them, you know, living out like the dream job that I want to be in, right, in the future, and how they're being so successful, like I want to learn from them. So them just taking time out of their day like to ask me like, hey, would you want to go grab coffee and have a conversation? Like that's all I needed. Like that is good leadership to me, because it just shows that they care about me, that they want to invest in like my future, and they want to get to know me more. And I know that they have so much wisdom that, you know, that they have like gathered, like just because of all of the exposure that they've had. And so them just investing that time into me is everything. So I'm very thankful for that.
And you said a key word, leadership, right? There's a document that I found from a training, and it really put and it put in line just the different type of learning styles of the different generations, right? And so it had like baby boomers, really sit down lecture style, one directional type of learning. It had then my generation, and then the millennials, which I'm like right on the cusp, born in '79. What? And right, it's so funny because a lot of my students were born in '97, and I was born in '79, which is a switch, and that's the year that I graduated high school. But I looked at the last line of your generation and the generation after you, and it said they want interactive learning. They want play. They want the emotional connection during the learning process.
Mhm.
And I think it's perfect timing because that's what we do at
Exactly.
Strategies of Prismatic Leadership. We have Legos and pipe cleaner and a lot of emotion. You know me, I bring the arts into the learning for that default mode network time and that self-awareness. When you go through training, like what do you want to say to, let's say they're all the leaders are listening within corporate America. For some reason, they're tuning into this show right now. What do you want to communicate to them about what your generation wants as far as being a part of their organization?
So I'm not just speaking for myself, but I know a big trend is, well, thanks to COVID, is remote work. A lot of people have a preference for working remote rather than in the office because they feel as though they work better in that setting. Of course, for me, I would love to try both. I find myself to be a very interactive learner, and I feel that has a lot to do with technology, just because I feel like our generation grew up with a creative, innovative childhood. With the introduction of cell phones and then social media. So a lot of the stuff that I prefer to learn is through interactive learning, and I do this in school. I learn lecture based, like you said, and I transform it into something that I can learn. So to kind of elaborate more on that, so I go to my lectures and then I make everything visual because I'm an interactive learner. So I make charts just so I can grasp the information better. So that's something that I feel like Gen Z wants with interactive learning, and also work-life balance. I hear a lot of people saying that, they are more willing to set boundaries in work. They don't want to feel overworked. They're looking for a work-life balance to have time for themselves, time mentally. And so that's another thing for Gen Z. And also diversity and inclusion. A lot of people want to go in with a culture that is diverse and encourages diversity. One of my connections, Emily Inestrosa, which came to Alumni 360 and talked to us about resume building. She talks all the time about the reason why she decided to work at Deloitte was because they had a lot of D&I. They have their own Latinx group of consultants, and they just allow all different cultures to feel welcome. So if anyone wants to build off on that.
I think that's like perfect and spot on, just because I was also going to mention that, like D&I, at the firm that I interned with, they have like the diverse groups. They have like some for veterans and like some for Black professionals and then Latino professionals. And just seeing people that look like me who are thriving in that workforce is so motivating. And then them, like again, what I had shared previously, sharing their wisdom and taking the time to invest into my future is just wonderful, because I'm able to be part of something that's bigger than myself, but not feel so small because I already have a community that's established. So having, right, like those diverse groups.
Yeah, that's. I'm going to jump in really quick, and then Katherine, if you want to add to that, I'm just going to really just pinpoint that point of the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Really, especially once again, bringing this book up. The hidden potential of your people will not be pulled out well and will not be developed well if they don't think they can speak up, right? If they don't even think that they are capable. And Kenia said it. You got to see it, and that's why when you were with me, when you were 7, 8, and 9 years old, in my classroom, I took you to places to see people doing amazing things. We brought speakers to Alumni 360, our nonprofit group, so you can see people doing amazing things who look like you and some people who didn't look like you. So you can see the array, right? And I knew that was crucial just to build your mind map of, oh, if they can do it, I can do it, right?
Right.
Princess Katherine, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, Lizbeth and Kenia so eloquently said the multiple things come to me. I think work-life balance is really important, and setting those boundaries. And I think we are moving towards this new era of unionizing, and we're seeing that happen, in different sectors. And so it's really powerful to see power in numbers, when it comes to work-life balance and how that translates to unions. And then also, going to what Kenia said about diversity, it's really important, like specifically with us Latinos. According to I think it was the 2022 census, we are 45% of the population in California. And when it comes to corporate, we are in 0.5% of the leadership roles. And that's insane to me, just how is it that we're most of the population, but we're not in these leadership roles? And so it is important for us to move towards that new normal of seeing us, especially as women, in these leadership positions and being comfortable and not, being stigmatized as angry women or any of those, prejudices. But, that I think that is something that a lot of our generation wants. And there was something that Kenia said earlier today of having peers that are older than you and, just having them and talking to them on a regular basis. I also have, relationships like that. And something that I find that's really interesting is not only are they my mentor, but I've realized that I'm a mentor to them. That we, no matter what age we are, we offer certain perspectives that different generations probably don't see. And because we are coming up from such different backgrounds with such different, technological resources, we have perspectives that they're going to find insightful, as vice versa, as they've lived longer. So they have wisdom that they will share with us. And so I think kind of creating this safe atmosphere that it's normal, no matter what age you are, that your input is important and valued. And I think that's really important.
Well said. Pulling out those diamonds. We have a term for that. It's called reverse mentorship. And that is key because the next topic we'll talk about as we get ready to close down, I know some of you have a hard stop, is creativity. Now, this is my jam. This is, I believe, one reason why I was put on this earth is to make sure people reach their full creative potential and are in environments where their creative potential can flourish, right? Keyword there, flourish. And when you have diversity and inclusion and psychological safety and people with different diverse backgrounds in leadership positions, I'm so glad you brought that up. The numbers are still not where they need to be with a lot of different demographics. It's really not just hurting our creativity individually, but just community-wise and nationally and globally, right? As we become more of a globalized society and a well-connected society, what tips can you give America and the world on how can we do a better job supporting your creative growth?
So, I can start it. I think I'm a part of this leadership program called Nueva Época, which is Spanish for New Era. And it's a Sacramento-based program over at the Youth Development Network. And their whole mission is specifically for this. They nominate, Latinx folks, and I'm one of them. And you go and you do this 6-month leadership program with them, and you develop these skills. And I think so far what I've been learning has been helping me so much, including this book, Crucial Conversations. But I think the main thing is something that our generation kind of carries is this sense of this really strong radical nature, which is beautiful. We're seeing unions evolve, develop. We're seeing all these political movements occur that are very important for us to be in these positions. But I think also being able to not tame it necessarily, but manage manage it in a way that will be productive for yourself and for the people that you surround yourself with. Know when you should engage in this behavior and know who you're talking to, so that when you engage in that behavior, you do it in a way that's productive. Being able to differentiate between story and facts, I think, is really important. Story is your interpretation of what facts are. And I think being able to draw that distinct line, especially in the workforce, is really important. Because you'll encounter that coworker who might be, say something that's a little racist, or say something that's not cool. But if you approach it in a way where you have a productive conversation, where they're not the enemy necessarily, I think we can come to a nice new we can create a nice new atmosphere where everyone feels safe to engage in dialogue rather than monologue. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah. So just building off of that, I think having actual classes from K through 12 that force you to be creative, or even just gain financial literacy. I mean, I took an econ class, but what did I learn? I couldn't even tell you because it really wasn't relevant. Like, I didn't learn how to manage my credit card, or how to create a savings account, or when I should create a college plan. And none of this was taught to me. So having that, but then also just like these arts classes, and allowing yourself to embrace that creativity within your K through 12 is so important. Because I know in New Academy we did it, but after that, I never picked up a flute again, because no one told me I had to. But I'm so sure that I would have benefited from that, just taking that hour out of my day to almost just like give back to my spirit, and be able to sit and force myself to play that instrument. Because I know there's just so much science, and I know Letford, you can expand on that, but I know that I would have benefited from that a lot, going from K through 12.
Yes, and you're referring to artistic creativity as well, but
Yeah.
we also mean the other types of creativity. And yes, thank you for sharing. So also that ability to I believe we should have creativity standards. Like every lesson or every unit should be like, okay, you learned all these facts that we drilled into you because the standards told us to. Now go off and create or solve a problem with all these facts you just learned, right?
Can I just interject and tell an anecdote real quick about that creativity in my workplace? So I'm interested in transportation studies. And so one of the projects that we did a workshop, and I was facilitating with I think a group of 15 people. And so what we decided to do at the beginning was we had this, it's kind of like a hamster toy, and you just it was a bunch of little things where you connect it. And so we brought it to a group of youth, and we said, hey, our icebreaker is we're going to give you this. You're going to build what you think a perfect city should look like, perfect city with perfect transportation. And so all they did is they grabbed these little hamster toys and started connecting things and saying, oh, this is a road, and this is going to be great because it'll take you to the school. And so it's making me think of that, being able to, and sorry, Lizbeth, for interjecting, but I had to tell this story because it's the perfect combination of being creative, but also interacting with everyone. And so as a facilitator or leader, when you're in that position, no matter what space it is, I think it's important to prioritize that and have that, designed in its core when you approach it.
Yeah. And what we do at the youth is so important for it to become a part of your mindset and your identity, right? And you talked about relevance. It wasn't relevant to me. There's something in the brain that you heard in the other clip from Dr. Andrew Huberman about acetylcholine. When something's relevant to you, acetylcholine shoots up in your brain. And yes, I do have a brain. And your brain says, hey, I should remember this. This could be important to me, or this is important to me. But a lot of times we teach information that we don't really have that relevant connection. So your brain doesn't do that. Lizbeth, did you want to add to that response?
Yeah, so personally, I feel a way to kind of encourage our creative growth is to kind of, this might be a little controversial, but I think be accommodating. You have a generation coming into the workforce that grew up, with an innovative childhood. And, so there are a lot of, learning preferences and creative preferences with technology. And having interactive things, just like Katherine had mentioned, allowing people to just create, like think creatively. So like, for example, like school, like Kenia had mentioned also, she had an economics course, but she says that she doesn't remember what she learned. And I feel like a lot of people are going through this too, just trying to retain the information just for that short period of time when they should really be using it to, think creatively in those domains. And yeah.
I'd like to add on to that. I really appreciate that being accommodating because, and it's very funny that you said controversial because you think accommodating, that's not controversial, but it's very funny because in the workforce, there are set, and I'm thinking specifically where I am in academia, there are set boundaries as to how things work, whether it's in your undergrad or working or doing research. Whether it's in your undergrad, you're memorizing information for 10 weeks, you take the test, you're done, okay, the information's gone. Or if you're doing research, you're talking to these people, you do the work, you follow the procedure, you get IRB approval, write your manuscript, publish it, done. But where's learning? And I really appreciate that you bring that up because it's hard to be accommodating, especially in a world where we're so comfortable where we are now. And I think working towards that is just going back to this book. You got to have the crucial conversations. You got to be uncomfortable. When you're uncomfortable, that's when you grow and that's when changes happen. And specifically where I work, you got to talk to the people higher in authority and make those changes yourself. You just got to voice your opinion, and that can be hard, and accommodation can be hard, but it's the goal.
Creative conversations or creative abrasion, they're calling it, right? And to have that. Awesome. So so if you have to jump, let me know. You can say goodbye, but I just have one more question. Wow, thank you so much. First of all, here's a quick clip I wanted to show.
There are now dozens, if not hundreds, of quality peer-reviewed studies using a variety of technical approaches that show that when children, especially children younger than 8, learn to play an instrument, and even better, learn to play multiple instruments, regardless of whether or not they learn to read music, that it leads to greatly enhanced connectivity within their brain that persists into adulthood, and that it facilitates other forms of neuroplasticity and learning, which is basically to say that my brain very likely does not include these enhanced circuits.
All right, so I will stop there. People can go to my LinkedIn. I posted that on Monday, the whole video, or you can go check out his whole podcast. It's like 2 hours, so be prepared. But once again, you have connectivity in your brain because you were with me for multiple years doing music, doing theater, doing the arts, doing dance, that is persisting into your adulthood and to your elderly years that will help just ward off like dementia, ward off a hearing loss. The neuroscience coming out, why the arts are so important. People can go check out Your Brain on Art. It is key. And also helping you be better listeners, more empathetic in your leadership now. And so the last question that I'm just going to ask is creativity and ownership. Now, you've known me when you knew me back then. I hadn't written any books or whatever, and I was working at a job, giving all my time to them. But in the background, really building things that I'm actually using now. I spoke to a few of you about, okay, what are you creating that's yours? Like right now, you all are in school or you work for an organization, and your time is really, going to that when you're working for a job. But have you ever thought about the papers that you're writing or writing your own book or something that you own the copyright to or the trademark to that is yours forever? Do you think that you really had that embedded in you as you were coming of age about you owning your own creative products?
No, I did not. I wrote all these essays for AP English and AP Literature, and I spent hours and hours for like my scholarship essays as well, but I never thought like, oh, I can create a book out of this. And right now I am actually working on a book. Lizbeth, you're the one who really like just motivated and like sparked that, like ignited that just like interest of mine. And so right now I'm working on it, and it is more like faith-based because I am a Christian, and so, but just like having work that's mine and like writing is something that's so beautiful, and I'm very excited to share that hopefully in a few years.
Yay. And I will help you get that published. That is awesome. The other two, have you ever thought about your own creative works and then owning the rights to those works?
Personally, no. Growing through education, like in high school, writing was something I never took seriously. Not until actually coming to college did I actually consider getting creative in my papers. And it is because, also to kind of go back to other topics, my professor was very accommodating to this new generation of students that he was getting. I would consider to be a millennial, and the way he taught how to write creatively is not a way that I have seen in high school. And it very much improved my writing. And he said that I should post some of my works onto websites, but I mean, I don't consider it now. But he improved my writing a lot. And yeah, so I've never actually thought about publishing it creatively. So that's a great point that you made.
Well, think about it. And it doesn't just have to be writing. It could be music. It could be an invention. It could be an idea. It could be curriculum, like how to teach somebody to do something and then copywriting that. Thank you for sharing that. Katherine?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm very fortunate to have had you, Genein, in my life, because that is something that is a part of me, making sure that I don't forget me. So I moved really far away from my home base, and I think that kind of forced me to begin growing my own identity. I recently read this 1986 article called Me Incorporated, and a quote from that is, "I'm the enterprise and I'm the CEO. My life is my enterprise and I'm the CEO." And having a singular business mentality is not loyalty; it's a business of professional naivete, in a sense. The article struck me because you can be with the organization for 10 years and help start that invention or whatever it is. And after those 10 years, let's say it goes bankrupt, then what? Yeah, you have your resume, but your entire life was dedicated to that sole entity, when realistically you're the one living your life. So yeah, I mean, during my undergrad, when I was writing stuff for classes, I published them on local op-eds and stuff like that. But in terms of a grander, portfolio building, that's something that I'm just doing. And I think the trajectory that I'm taking my life, I do want to pursue higher education. So I think just getting co-authorship for the publishing that has been released, I think that for me is satisfying in a sense, because it's what I'm working towards, and that's helpful when I'm applying for grad school in the future. But I never forget it. There is that in the back of my head that the CRC isn't my identity. I'm my CEO. So I mean, and the day to day, of course, it's easy to forget that. But I think kind of having a good quote next to your computer will help.
Yes. And being published within a paper is a big deal, like a white paper or a research paper, and making sure that if you worked on it, that you get that real estate.
Yeah, because that's another thing. If you don't advocate for yourself in that, they can easily not put your name in it.
Yes. And so, so we're going to wrap up, but I remember a quote that you and I spoke about when we were on the phone of, people tell you advocate for yourself, but people don't actually give you the step-by-step way of how do you make that implementable, right? What does that look like to advocate for yourself, especially a woman of color in these particular social spheres, right? Right. So we are going to wrap up because people have to go onto their next appointment, and it's late for you all. And I've been showing all these books, so I have to show my book, 7 Gems of Intercultural Creativity: How to Connect, Create, and Innovate Across Cultural Lines. And then this book, you 3 should have, because I make sure to give it to a lot of my students, From Debt to Destiny: Creating Financial Freedom from the Inside Out, the story about financial literacy, but how my husband and I paid off $100,000 worth of debt because we had no financial literacy growing up. So I wanted to make sure I can give my wisdom to the next generation so they didn't have to go through what I went through. So you can check those out. And we are going to close up. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. We are the Diamonds, right? So yes, Adam Grant did borrow my logo, but that's cool, right? You got to share the love. We are the Diamonds, and we believe that everyone should shine bright, that you all have inner gems within you. And as leaders, we need to pull these gems and be prismatic leaders. What's one gem of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience today?
Oh, I feel like I used all my gems when I was talking, but I just came up with one that I think I live by. For me, it's chase the opportunity, not the dollar. I work in public health. And so for all y'all that work in public health, it takes a while to get up to where you want to be at financially in terms of what your income will be. But for me, it's really been chase the opportunity, making sure that I talk to people, and the people that I talk to, it's intentional. And when I maintain those relationships, that's intentional too.
So social capital as well. We can always talk about that on the next run. Thank you so much. Kenia or Lizbeth?
Yeah, for me, it would definitely be give back. So right now I'm right in my undergrad, but I am studying to hopefully one day become a financial advisor and to, be that bridge between those marginalized communities that don't have that knowledge and how to be financially literate, and just me being able to give back to those communities because I was there once and my parents were there. And so being that bridge, giving back.
Thank you. And we didn't really talk about how you took hold of your story and submitted for multiple scholarships. So you and I really worked together, and you did an amazing job of bringing those scholarships in by sharing your story. So thanks for that. And Lizbeth?
Yeah, so for me, I would say, staying up to date, back to what I had said about what I wish my younger self would have known. Our generation is constantly evolving. It's important to acknowledge those changes and know what's going on. And also, you can even be a part of those changes, be a part of those conversations, be a part of that innovation. The workforce today is not going to be the same in 20 years. So it's important to, stay up to date of how the world is evolving.
Very well said, all three of you. Right. Brain capital, something that our company is coming with the research. They're doing research around the world on brain capital. So we're like, hey, what does this look like as we teach it? And you three are wonderful gems, wonderful examples of who we are preparing for, right? Who we are teaching and who the next leaders will be. So I am feeling hopeful because I see your gems and your shining. So thank you, everyone, for joining in. We had a few live views, people who actually watched the whole show. So we see you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Like, yes, thank you. Hit me up on whatever platform you're in. I should give you, like, send you a free book just for hanging in there. Mr. Adam Torres, who my podcast is on for Mission Matters. He's a great thought leader as well. And whoever else stayed with us. Thank you so much. This is the next generation. This is who we are getting ready for. We are ready to shine bright. We are ready to be prismatic leaders, and we are ready to create and grow. We will see you next time. Have a great